Hello again and welcome along to the penultimate What the Ruck Happened, the series where we discuss all the goings on from each and every day of the Rugby World Cup. Now, the group stage, the pool stage, has almost come to an end. We have the final 2 days to take a look at over today and tomorrow before we look forward to quarterfinals, and I also have some special videos lined up between now and quarterfinal time that involves some of the teams who have been knocked out of the Rugby World Cup as well, so stay tuned and stick around for those coming your way over the next week before the big weekend of quarterfinal action. So we're going to look here at the 17th day of the Rugby World Cup. It is the second last day of pool play, and it had 3 matches take place. Scotland up against Samoa, the 34th match out of Pool B. Then we had the big one from today's play. It was Australia up against Wales, a decider for Pool A. And then the final match could have been an important one, but in the end, ultimately, come this second to last day, England up against Uruguay has absolutely no bearing whatsoever on this competition. So that was the third and final match of day 17. So we're going to kick things off at the top from Pool B. So sit back and relax and enjoy the discussion. The 34th game of the tournament from St. James Park in Newcastle, Samoa versus Scotland. And this was a very big match, not just for these two teams, but for one little Japanese side who was sitting back watching this one with a great deal of interest, because a win here for Samoa would keep their hopes with a win against the United States in their next match tomorrow and the final day of pool play to be a chance that they could take second place in the pool. So they'll be right behind the Samoans, hoping they could get the job done against Scotland, and that was what was riding on it. Samoa, they really wanted to finish what has been a very disappointing Rugby World Cup for the Samoans. Scotland, on the other hand, the pressure was all on them to stay up and protect their spot in second place in Pool B. So the game, big decider. This would decide ultimately second place in Pool B. Scotland or Japan could be the two to go through. Samoa, they were unable, but they definitely would not go out without a fight. They had a lot to prove, and they took an early chance straight off the whistle to get the early points, and it was 3-0 Samoa, who were instantly in the lead. Of course, Scotland, not a team to give up too easily after that disappointing start. They hit back instantly. It was 3-3. Laidlaw on his kicking boots back in from a scrum penalty, and both sides taking early chances was good to see in the overall prospect of this match, but it all of a sudden, it got extremely active, extremely fast as well. The game already was being played at quite a high tempo. Things got pretty exciting pretty fast. It was a high-paced game. Both teams were playing attacking, entertaining, and very exciting rugby. And it did absolutely explode. Tusi Pisi on the end of an amazing attack. Paul Perez straight through a big bust through the middle of the Scottish defence. And an instant try for the Samoans going to Pisi. Opening the first try of the match. Quick ball, instantly scoring. Amazing corner try as well. Diving, one arm over the corner, of course had to go to the TMO. Was it a try? Was it not a try? But that was a huge example of what Samoa could do if they hit their straps, and it was PC who opened it up, the first try of the game, and it was a frantic start from the Samoans to get that lead up as well. But Scotland hit straight back again. There was a bit of a question whether this was a try or not. There was a mistake of the kickoff by Samoa, and it really was schoolboy stuff, taking down the kickoff, the Samoans, and they decided to give it some width as well, which is something very typical of the way the Samoans can play as well. But it come with a big mistake. The ball not going to hand, hitting ground, bouncing oddly like the rugby ball always does. The ball popped up, and Tommy Seymour popped straight through the middle to score what would be an instant reply try for the Scots, exactly what they were wanting after the first try scored by Samoa. They needed to get back in the game, and it was a mistake that gave them the chance. Seymour ready to pounce, and this game, well, wow, it was absolutely at a high speed, high pace. Just everything flying from side to side. Before you could write down what happened in one try, there was another being scored, and there was exactly that happening as well. Another try, 3 inside a couple of phases as well. Kickoff, a big break through the middle, and then a penalty was secured. But Samoa, well, they're not the team to slow a game down at all, and they quickly tapped it, and the defence of Scotland was still at 6s and 7s, and the tap and go, too quick, too fast. It was just the explosive speed of the way the Samoans play the game. They were in for another try, and it was 3 tries, I said, in an instant. Just from these sides, it was just explosive. It was so high pace, it was hard to keep up with. The second try for Samoa, that went the way of Lea Taula, who scored the third try of the match, second for Samoa, and they took the lead back. The key to controlling this early portion of the match seemed to be all in the restarts, as these were the last couple of tries come mistake at a restart, then a big break straight from a restart. It was either attacking it or defending it very well, depending on your position to the ball. But 2 tries, both from a kickoff. It was a try fest, and it was exciting stuff at the moment. The speed of play was exceptional, and both teams were here to score points and to score tries. Scotland continued on as well, scoring penalties any given chance, and Samoa still held on to their lead, 15 points to 13. And about the midway point of the first half, Samoa, they were all attack, and they were absolutely flying at the height of their game. But just when it looked like Scotland were going to fight their way back, Samoa hit again with another try. This time, Ray Lilo got the dot down, all set up from one man who has been so influential to how the Samoan side has played. Tim Nanai Williams, so good from fullback or wherever you put him on the field. He is so elusive, so aggressive, and so dangerous for the Samoans. He's been the one man who has been there the whole tournament, but it just wasn't enough generally. But this time, he did exactly what was required. Lilo on support, and it looked like Scotland could be in trouble because Samoa was scoring tries for fun, and they were only managing to get the penalties now to find themselves back in the game. It was a great lead at this time for the Samoans. Their lead was out to 20 points to 13 following that good try to Ray Lilo. Things got worse for the Scots as well, as Ryan Wilson got the first yellow card of the match. This was the time for Samoa to really put the hammer down and man up, and they could really put the pressure on the Scots. The TMO, I think, was probably the best TMO we've seen in the World Cup, and this was his involvement. Although I don't really like the TMOs calling yellow cards and deciding that themselves, but he was still very clear, very quick with his decisions, very decisive and clear cut. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. He said it very clearly and very straightforward to the ref as well. I think that was the best part to take from this match. That was not to do with the actual rugby as well. Samoa, though, they continued to fight on with the man advantage as well, taking another 3 points and putting the lead out to 23 points to 16. Samoa with the lead. Scotland, though, they had another trick up their sleeve as well, and it was John Hardy that scored their second try of the game, and they went back to what they know, and what they know works against teams like Samoa, the rolling maul. It seems to be the go-to tactic for the best sides in this Rugby World Cup. And we've seen 100 rolling mauls in this World Cup as well. Know exactly how they go down quickly off a line out. It's exactly textbook stuff from Scotland, and John Hardy, as seeing him play quite often as well, you know exactly how he does it. He's a good expert at the rolling maul, and Scotland have a quality player there as well. Samoa almost got one just at the end of the half there, actually was awarded and then reversed from the Samoans. It was a well-executed play, but it was called back for one of the Samoan players taking out a defender that resulted in the gap that the player could go through to score very close to the line. It was a big shame as well, because I think that they could have really put that up and it would have been a massive difference at half-time if they could have gone on with that extra try. Would have he stopped the player? It's hard to say. You may say no because he was off to the angle, was very close to the line. It's debatable, but in the end it was decided to be no try, and that will be something that the Samoans could rue the decision of later on in the match. Some more chances come just before the halftime break, but a great display of entertaining, end-to-end, aggressive attacking rugby from Samoa and Scotland, and I think possibly one of the best halves of rugby in the Rugby World Cup. Easily has to be right up there with excitement, tries, just the atmosphere and everything going the way of both these two sides. It was a fantastic first half, and the final score for that halftime was 26-23, Samoa hanging on to a 3-point lead at the break. If anything, the break in play seemed to disturb the Samoans as Ray Lilo was absolutely carving up like the Christmas ham, but so many chances were going to ground now for the Samoans. Chances that they were taking in the first half are going away from them now, and it was something that was starting to really affect their play. They was losing their chances, losing their confidence, and we all know confidence is so important. And with that, without the explosiveness, and when the Samoans started questioning their plays, the game started to settle down to a normal pace, and I think this is where the game changed to the favour of Scotland, because that slower, controlled pace suits the Scottish very much in the way that they play, whereas Samoa, they needed to keep it high, they needed to keep it explosive, they needed to keep that pace up as well. But the penalties were what was keeping the scoreboard ticking over, as penalties were exchanged from what would normally be try-scoring chances from the action we saw of the first half. But the penalties were just how the teams were controlling the game, trying to think that the other was out of it. It was just an end-to-end topsy-turvy, went from tries to kicks. But in the end, it was the Scottish who seemed to really gain control from the situation. There were some big plays in the midway point of the second half as well, when Landlaw missed a couple of really big shots at goal, which could have put the Scottish in front as well, but the Samoans continued to hang on, and they led 29-26 when it looked like now Scotland was starting to lose their composure, starting to lose their confidence in themselves as well, and it was really such a stark contrast to the first half. A big milestone come up not long after that though for Scotland, Sean Lamont becoming only the second ever Scottish player to pass 100 international caps. A great moment for Sean Lamont, and a big congratulations to him on making just the second ever Scottish player to get over 100 caps. There was a massive chance over Scotland in the Samoan 22, but the Samoans all of a sudden learned how to defend, and they were buying in to this defensive nature of the game. They were holding up the Scots, and as it looked like they were about to score, they were eventually held up, but the ensuing scrum afterwards gave the massive opportunity to Greg Laidlaw, who eventually scampered away from a little 5-metre scrum snipe off the back of the scrum. It was probably the most decisive moment in the game that gave Scotland the lead that they were so trying for the whole entire match. The penalties along with that and conversions was enough to put them into a good lead. That eventually made its way up to 10 points, 36-26, with just a few handful of minutes remaining. Samoa, though, not one to give up with the final 5 minutes, were throwing absolutely everything, including the kitchen sink, at the Scottish players, and they did eventually get the try they were looking for. Motu'u getting a try of his own, a 5-metre scrum, and then it was just forward play. The Samoa pick and go, over and over again. Then they were getting penalties. Scotland were offside. Scotland infringing at the ruck, lying on the ball. Offside again. It was all Samoa trying to get that elusive try that could put them right back in the match. Eventually, Motu'u was the one to score it, and what could have been a really big try for this game with just 2 minutes to go. It was 33-36. Could they find the miracle play right at the end for Samoa. As it turned out, they did attack, but Scotland had the control they required off the kickoff. They did hang on by a whisker. 3 points, 33-36. Scotland hung on to get the most decisive win of their Rugby World Cup. They were very lucky, very, very lucky as well. Should have Samoa won this match? That's what I'm interested to know what you guys think about that as well. Were Scotland good enough, or did Samoa lose that match themselves? Either way, it was one of the best matches of the Rugby World Cup so far. An absolute cracker between those two countries, and it's a real shame that they don't meet each other more often. Full time 33-36. The one thing that did do is shut the door on Japan, who now, regardless of their result against USA, could not pass the Scots into second place. But that third place automatic qualifying was still well and truly up for grabs for the Japanese. Game number 2 for day 17 was the big one in the middle of the night. It was Australia up against Wales. This one, the decider as to who would take top spot in Pool A and avoid the Springboks in a quarter-final match. It was Australia and Wales, both who had beaten England earlier in the tournament, really ruined their World Cup and destroyed their hopes and dreams. Now they would be pitted off to see who would avoid South Africa, who wants to play the Springboks, because they were looking in better and better form as the competition went over. The days for the loss against Japan were well and truly forgotten about. Wales was the team to get off to the better start, getting a great opportunity and almost scoring a try on the left side of the field, but eventually they went back for a penalty, opted for the 3 and took the lead. And early on, Wales were looking the much better side, and you have to say for the majority of the match, Wales did look the better side. They held pressure for very long periods, and they were encamped inside the Australian 22 for a good quarter of an hour very early on in the match. But the defence of the Wallabies is something we're going to mention numerous times in a look at this match, because that was really the winning of this game. It was Wales though. They were looking the better. They were looking extremely good in this arm wrestle with a match between these two Group A heavyweights. We won't include England in that conversation, but Australia, the dominance they weren't getting were coming from the set piece and mainly the scrums, and that's how they fought their way back up the field to take a 3-pointer themselves and to tie the scores up. It took over half the first half before Australia really got into the match, and they started controlling the game after that through penalties and big periods of possession in the Welsh half. It's almost as if they took a while to wake up, and Wales had spent all their attacking flair for the half, and Australia were just waiting for their opportunity. They were taking all chances they had, but eventually it was only penalties that they could put on the scoreboard. They exchanged one apiece, and eventually the score was 6-6. Wales were giving away a lot of penalties though as the half wore on, and Australia were taking advantage, putting their score out to 9 points to 6 and taking the lead near half-time. The goal-kicking options were starting to take bigger and bigger risks as this match looked like it was really only going to be decided from the kicking tee. Will Guinea was called offside and gave Wales a chance to shoot for 3, but it was Dan Biggar who put his shot astray, missing an opportunity to tie things up. Just on the half-time buzzer, Matt Giteau thought he'd have a go from halfway. He was also unsuccessful, and the two sides headed to the break at 9-6, a stalemate almost between these two sides looking to decide Pool A. But what can you say about that half? Australia's defence was immaculate. Wales attacked and then it got turned around. It's like they had a good 20 minutes of attack each, but the defence of the other was just too good. In the end, Wales are still in this match. Australia looked like the better side in the second half of the opening period. But all in all, it was a real arm wrestle, a real stalemate out there between these two teams fighting it out for top spot. The crowd were proving to be the 16th man for the Welsh as they were in full voice as the Welsh side started to build a good amount of pressure early on in the second half, but there was both teams who had multiple chances, end-to-end stuff from both teams, but the penalties were just ruining what chance they did have to score what could be a decisive try for for either side. Australia took 3 points from Toby Faletau getting pinged for a neck roll, and all of a sudden it was a 6-point game. It was 12 points to 6. It was at this point that the match really started to change and go into the favour of Wales. They had a massive chance just before the hour mark to score a try, but didn't manage to finish the job. What they did manage to do is get an even bigger advantage on their side. Will Guinea getting a yellow card, a massive call this, not back tens off a quick tap, and he was off to the bin for 10 minutes. Now Wales had the man advantage. Could they look for the decisive try in this game? Because it didn't look like either side were good enough to beat the other's defence. Faletau looked like he was over, went to the TMO, but he lost it in the tackle going over the line. Could that have been the massive moment of the game? Things got even worse for the Wallabies as Dean Mum got sent off. Another yellow card just minutes after the Will Guinea yellow card. Them in Australia were 2 men down. They were down to 13 and Mum was the one taking a player out in the air. It was, just one of those things, silly thing to do. And another yellow card, a bad time to do it as well. And Australia were looking in all sorts of trouble, getting 2 men down, and Wales were well and truly on the attack. You just can't take a man out in the line out like Dean Mum did, and a man of his experience you'd expect to not do something silly like that. It was a big call as well to give a yellow card for something like that, but it did look fairly bad as well. Another chance, of course, with 2 men up went to Wales, and it went to George North as now he was held up as well in the tackle. This game was unbelievable. The chances and the pressure that Wales were hammering down on the Australian defensive line right now, right in this period of having 2 men of man advantage, was almost unthinkable to even fathom how this Australian defence was holding out. The crowd was absolutely going berserk because the team, Wales, that most of that crowd was supporting, were on attack for absolute ages, and they could not get the points. They could not get the try despite being 2 men up. They had the chances. Faletau went over, George North went over, mistakes were letting the Wallabies off, and they just defended like their lives depended on it. I could not believe exactly what was going on. I've never seen a team defend like this. 2 men down. It's just unthinkable, and we've seen a few times already in this World Cup teams go down to 13 men as well. It was just ridiculous how well they defended and how well they kept Wales out as well. I think that was the double decisive moment. 2 men sent to the bin, advantage Wales. Having that 12 minutes or so until both were back and not conceding a single point, advantage Australia. The confidence they would have got from that, massive, absolutely massive. And as soon as those players were back on the field, Brendan Foley said, "Thank you very much. We're back to the full complement and we're back to scoring points." 15-6 he made it, and it looked almost impossible from here on in for Wales to even score any points, let alone a try, as they trailed by 9 points. Once again, the injury toll didn't help Wales. Dan Biggar going off what seemed to be another injury. Hopefully for his sake and for Wales' sake, it is only a little niggle for the fly half. The yellow cards didn't end there though either, as it was Alex Cuthbert who got sent off for deliberately knocking down a ball going for an intercept. Didn't try catch it, deliberately slapped it forward, and that is just, that's one of those things. It's the heat of the moment. You have to stop the try. There was an overlap, he had to do something. You're going to feel you really have to try and catch those balls like that. You can't deliberately push them down like that. The refs hate that. It's like deliberately throwing the ball into touch. It is a really frowned on thing. And that was the 3rd yellow card of the match. Unbelievable to have so many yellow cards in the second half, within 20 or so, 15 minutes of each other as well. So the Wallabies tried to extend their lead. Brendan Foley taking a shot at 3, but amazingly, he missed. So that was a chance now for Wales to reevaluate and try and go for that final push to get themselves back in the game. But it never come their way, Wales. They never got the opportunities and they never got the chance. The full-time score was 15 points to 6, and it was a game for the defensive coaches to really get excited about. It was great defence from both teams, no question about that, but the attack was decisively average throughout the game. Australia, they looked okay, they looked fantastic defending. No one was going to break that brick wall, but you got to wonder where the tries would come from when they come into a quarter-final time. They have got themselves to the, what you would call it, hyped up, easier side of the pool, avoiding the likes of the All Blacks and South Africa. But will they be favourites now to go all the way to the final? When you look at where they are, their quarter-final will see them against Scotland, now that that has been decided, and the possibilities of who they'll be up against in the other quarter-final, Argentina, and it'll be Ireland or France, depending on the other results as well. So the easier side for Australia, but their arch rival of Ireland could well and truly be there, as we all know what happened when they met in 2011. So Australia, they did what they had to do to win. They defended very well. Wales, I think they should be utterly disappointed. They should have easily won that match. They had the massive chance, but the defence was just too good. The first World Cup game to have no tries in it. What a stat. What an absolutely dreadful stat to have. It was an exciting match though. Plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities, but the finishing overall very poor from those two sides. That wraps up for match number 2. We have the one game still to come. England versus Uruguay. Nothing on this match here at all. Last chance for the home fans to see their team in action before the excitement, the nitty-gritty, the real business end of the season gets underway. And you have to imagine this is a pretty difficult match for England to get up for as well. Knocked out of the World Cup, the first home nation ever to be knocked out in the group stage. We've said it all before, but to get up for a match against a minnow like this, it's got to be tough. And I think the selection policy here was good, because it was chances for these players who didn't feature so much in the big games, and for them there's more at stake than just a match against a World Cup minnow. This is a chance for them to impress. This is a chance for them to show their wares, and they'll be the next group of players to stand up into an English jersey looking ahead 4 years' time. But amazingly, it was Uruguay who got off to a good start, kicking the opening points of the match, going 3-0. Uruguay had the lead. Could anyone sniff an upset? No. I don't think that was ever in threat against England. The English were looking for one thing and one thing only. That was tries, and that was lots of them as well. Owen Farrell got a good early chance, breaking and running away through the defensive line, but it was all ruined when it broke down from Tom Youngs, bidding on a neck roll. Something we've learned much about a neck roll kind of tackle in this Rugby World Cup. Something that's been clamped down on big time, and something that has developed as a thing. The neck roll or the neck. Some things around the neck, they just hate that, and very quickly they ping it. That ruined the first real chance for England, but they were to be back as they scored the first try, going to Anthony Watson. It was Jack Noel who broke away and put a chip in the head for Watson, who just, and I mean just, stopped the ball and dotted down before the dead ball line. Now that was a fantastic try, and that X factor that England just seemed to miss, in their back line. Noel didn't see too many chances. He's very quick, he's extremely elusive, and he showed good ability here to put in it wasn't really a small chip, it was quite a little chunky chip, you could say. Gave it quite a bit of air, and the ball just stayed in long enough for Anthony Watson to dive on and score a great try, a great opening try. And the fans, I think, they knew they were here to see some entertaining rugby. And there's some credit here they have to give to their opposition as well. Uruguay played extremely positive, attacking rugby. They were giving the ball width, they were attacking, they were aggressive, but they just didn't have the full array of skill set to really provide the entertainment that they were looking to do. They made many errors, but you have to give them credit. You have to encourage them for the way that they played. They could have easily shut up shop, like we've seen from the teams, the minnow sides are in the competition, like Georgia did against the All Blacks, and Namibia for that matter as well, like teams have done in the other pools, just slowing the game down, trying to just make it as as damage-proof as possible, trying to concede as little points as possible by just wasting so much time. Uruguay, to their credit, did not do that at all. They attacked, and they attacked hard. They played positive rugby, and that's something I really want to emphasise and give them credit for as well, because I think that's a great thing to see. Just going out there, having some fun, throwing the ball around, giving it everything you've got for the Rugby World Cup and for their country. It was great to see. The English, though, they weren't there to have any festivities. They were there to win, and they were there to score tries once again. Nick Easter got going in the rolling maul, and he got the second try of the match for England. It was just 18 minutes in, and it seemed to be the go-to play for the English, because it was just 5 minutes later and Nick Easter was in again, another rolling maul, and the Uruguayans just couldn't seem to stop it and put it down to the ground and put it in its tracks. They just had no answer for it, and eventually the maul did go down, and it was an easy pick and go up for Nick Easter, who just bulldozed his way over to score the third try. He had 2 of the opening 3. Uruguay, though, once again, they didn't give up. They kept attacking. High risk rugby, entertaining rugby from the Uruguayan side. They didn't get the reward they probably deserved, but it was positive. They made a lot of mistakes, they made a lot of errors, but they played very well. And for the rest of that 15 or so minutes of the first half, they kept things very even. I think they played probably their best game through there, and they actually learned how to disable the rolling maul of England for that latter part as the English once again put that go-to rolling maul off the line out. But Uruguay, to their credit, actually adapted their game to put a stop to that. The half didn't end too well, though, for the Uruguayans, as their captain, Villaseca, was given a yellow card for a professional foul at the breakdown. It was a disappointing way to finish the game, but I guess, all in all, we still have to play by the rules. We went to half-time, was 21-3 to England. Not much to question there. It was as we all expected. Uruguay, though, I think were playing a lot better than many people expected. The way they were playing, the attitude was good to see. And England, well, they were just wanting to score tries. And straight after the break, that's exactly what they did once again. There was plenty of highlights from the second half as well. Anthony Watson, set-piece scrum, backline move, try time. Easy to say, easy to finish. Anthony Watson, we know he is a superb finisher. He's very young as well. His World Cup dream not over for him, because he's still got a lot of years of playing for England in front of him. England were dominating the set piece, though, from the line outs, the scrums. It was all England, and there was really no surprise about how these were going. Although they did butcher a couple of tries after that. Romshaw and Haskell both losing the ball in what seemed to be certain try-scoring chances. So once again, let's go back and give Uruguay some credit here for how they played. They defended very well. Despite trailing by almost 30 points, they still put their hearts on the line and defended their try line like it was a little mini war out there between the English and the Uruguayan side. Henry Slade, a man who hasn't featured a huge amount in this World Cup campaign for England, he got down for his first try of the match. It was a box kick for Uruguay by the little scrum half, Omachia, who just didn't get it online at all. Charged down from Slade, and he was the first to react, the first to chase it, showed some good speed as well to outrun the defenders coming across to score the try for England. They were in for try number 5, going to Slade. It was just 3 minutes later, and Noel was in for his first try of the match. It was a counter-attack from deep, and it was Good and Danny Kerr who led the attack. The support was there from Noel. There was numbers in the counter, and there was just too many white jumpers, and they kept the ball alive very well. Very quick recycling as well, and the try was scored once again. It didn't let up after that either, when Nick Easter went in for his hat-trick, and what will probably be his last representative match for England. Once again, the rolling maul. That was the ticket. That was the way to do it. And Easter had 3 tries. And that was 3 tries in about 9 minutes as well. Unbelievable to score that quickly for the English. They were dominating this match, and it was an absolute bulldozing at this point. But it wasn't all one-way traffic to England. You have to go back and say some good things here that the Uruguayan side did done. And this was probably where their biggest attacking threat come from after that Nikisa try. They got on the attack and actually things started to stick. They were within 5 metres of the English line and they kept getting penalties and penalties and they were not giving up. They were kicking to the corner over and over again. They were looking to their set piece. They were trying everything they had in their playbook. For a good 10 minutes at least, they had the pressure on the English line. Ultimately, once again, they come away with no reward. But how good was it to see them kicking for the corner? They wanted that try, and they were going to do everything they can to try and get it. It didn't end up going well for them after that, though, as Noel was in for another try. This time it was a good patient play from the English on attack. They actually built up phases of attack and they looked to use their numbers and looked to use width on the ball as well. And really they weren't taking advantage of the fact that Uruguay was starting to run out of puff. They were starting to fall away and starting to make basic errors, make basic tackling defensive errors, and just didn't have the puff to do that magical effort they did for the full 18 minutes, and things started to go downhill pretty quickly as Noel went in for another try. Numbers with the attack, width, and just really, it was fitness that really put England in for these last few tries. Just through the hands, Uruguay unable to put the covering defence in, and Noel is in for a hat-trick as well, a second half hat-trick going to the winger. The final play of the match went to a penalty try given for an offside when the English seemed to be clearing to score the try. You know, it was a nothing play right at the end. A penalty try, almost nearly a bit harsh, but all in all, it was not much of an event here. Uruguay come to play, and they played pretty well as well, but England were always going to be the dominant side here. This should have been the game where they celebrated topping Pool A, or whatever it was they were going to end up on. It didn't end up that way, and this is just the last chance to see their team in action before they depart the tournament. In the end, both teams are out, and Uruguay, as we expected, that's how the match went. England will still be bitterly disappointed, and there's going to be some massive recovering from this match. The final score was 60 points to 3. Uruguay, they opened the scoring, and that was all they got from the 80 minutes. But I think that was a good positive match from the Uruguayan side to wrap up day 17. But that is wrapping up my time for day 17 as well. Learned a lot from this match and had some fantastic rugby as well. Scotland and Samoa, an amazing game. Such a vast contrast to what we've seen from Australia and Wales. You know, two teams who wanted to attack absolutely everything in Samoa and Scotland up against, you know, the next match, which was just defence and defence and defence. Australia and Wales, and then a blowout to wrap up the day, England over Uruguay. It was great to see the Minnows, the Uruguayan side, in action from this Rugby World Cup. So that is my time for today. Let me know what you think about these matches, if you were at any of the matches, what you think about the results, who you think is going to be favourites heading in to the quarterfinals, and as always, I will be back again for the final day of group matches tomorrow, so stick around and stay tuned for that before we have a few days break before the quarterfinals kick into gear. So thank you for tuning and watching. Leave your comments as always below, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.